Someone willing to approve the agenda? Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, nay. Thank you. You had a chance to review the minutes? Someone make a motion to accept the minutes? Not available? Okay, sorry. Warden's remarks. It's been busy. We've had the Cooks hockey tournament. There's been several tree lightings. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the staff here for all the work they did for our tree lighting on Friday evening, and it was a great job and well received by the public. Thank you for that. So, 5.1, Bay of Fundy Sea Kayak. Did he step out? Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Good. Congratulations on the work you did this fall. I heard all good reports, so.
Pretty excited about it. So I think we need the screen turned on. I'm not very good with mics, but that's fine. So thanks for having us back this year. Obviously, I recognize a bunch of faces from last year, and I'm really happy to be back to give you a recap on last year's event, or I guess it was this year's, and then to look forward to next year's event. We pulled it off pretty well, I think. Some support here from the participants from last year's event. And just wanted to give you a couple little recaps on some highlights for the event itself. The event was so well received by local community and then outside of Nova Scotia, and it's gotten recognition from the global paddling community, and Nova Scotia has very much become a very big blip on the places to go kayaking in the world. There's a video that was produced by a lady named Justine just recently in the last couple of weeks that's been viewed by 5,000 or 6,000 people. It's for sale now as a commercial entity. It's highlighting the Bay of Fundy specifically for what it has to offer sea kayakers. So there is no specific mention of Southwest Nova in it, but it's all geared around the Bay of Fundy. So the ripple effect from that is quite substantial. Rick has a copy of it, so if you're interested in having a look at it and seeing whales from a kayak, they're a little different from a boat, so a big boat I mean, and then what the tides have to offer us as a venue for us to play, basically. So it doesn't look like play to some people, but it's fun to us. So the social media explosion that we had 5,000 or 6,000 unique views on some of the photo albums that we created from the event, as well as all the posts. There's been a number of articles that have been written online, and then there'll be a bunch that'll also be released this year that will highlight the actual area, highlighting areas like Foreshue and Tuskets and those areas that, specifically as places that we utilize this year and we will continue to utilize next year. Another big one that we thought was really impressive for a brand new event. We're #1 on Google. If you search out Kayak Symposium, we come up 3 or 4 times on that first page. So we're pretty happy about that. So we're obviously there, and people are recognizing Yarmouth and this whole area as a place for us to go kayaking. Just a simple blurb. Obviously, same thing as last year. It's a 3-day event, drawing people in the shoulder season. So we're encouraging participation to after Labor Day. So people will come after Labor Day, bring money into an area that we all know that after Labor Day is a pretty quiet place. So we're trying to get as many people down here. We're going to get them to come early. We're going to get them to stay later as well. We've offered pre and post symposium sessions last year, and we'll continue to do that this year. So it's going to bring, you know, a lot more money to this area, not necessarily just for the event, but before and after. Within the report that I gave the warden, it basically gives us a full demographic breakdown of who came, where they came from, how, you know, sort of what they were doing while they were here. So it gives you an idea of what we're up to, and obviously we're trying to tap into that so that we can encourage more people to come early and stay later, like I say. Obviously, most of the reasonings that we're running the event here again are very easy for us. You know, we have places like Cape Fortune Lighthouse, which we use this year quite a bit. I think we ran 4 or 5 sessions there each day throughout the event. Monday was a very exciting day. It was very rough and everybody loved it. It was a highlight. So they go down there and bang off the rocks and be beat up a bit. So, you know, at the time they didn't enjoy it, but at the end they're like, wow, that was really exciting. Okay, yeah, that's great. So, so we do have a lot of variety here, and specifically here in this area, you know, Fortescue will be an area that we will be highlighting and taking advantage of in 2014. You know, my personal connection obviously to the area is really important to me, to draw people and bring people to Southwest Nova. I grew up in Annapolis County. It's very important that we bring people here and show them what we actually have. The upper part of the bay is a little bit different excitement, but down here it's got that natural beauty that we're trying to tap into. The target market that we decided that we're going to go through this year is we feel like we have a fairly good grasp on the local community. New England, Ontario, Quebec, spreading over to Newfoundland a little bit. There is a fairly big population of paddlers. The Midwest of the United States, we got, I can't remember, about 8 or 9, I think we added up this morning from the Midwest. So we're planning on going to a show in Illinois in March to draw more people from central United States, Great Lakes area. You know, they're used to fresh water, and we want to bring them to the sea so they can have a taste of the seawater. And then into Europe. So we're not 100% sure how we're going to tap into that. We have a couple feelers out on magazine articles and things that could be published in the United Kingdom and in Germany as well. And we're going to try and tap into that market ever so slightly. We did have one participant from Germany, and he's a relatively active paddler. So we're going to try and use him to help leverage some more exposure for us in that area. Marketing strategy is the same, similar to last year. We're going to slightly change things ever so slightly, but we are, you know, planning on attending a bunch of different trade shows locally and then outside of this area, including Halifax and beyond, basically. And we've partnered with a lot of the paddling organizations. So the Provincial Paddling Association, we've also spoken with the one in New Brunswick to create a bit of a liaison with them as well. And then we'll be working on Newfoundland as well to create more of an Atlantic Canadian feel, as well as Paddle Canada, being the national governing body for recreational paddling, is also on board to support the event. We've sort of aligned ourselves with one of the biggest kayak magazines in Canada, and they'll be releasing an article around the time of our registration opening. So we've asked them to wait to write that article so that it can be released around the time that the event is going to start promoting itself and kicking itself forward. So we brought the editor from that magazine down specifically to the event last year because we felt it was very important for her to be here, and I think it's going to pay off. Ocean Paddler is probably the biggest kayak magazine in the United Kingdom. There's also an article will be written in there about the Bay of Fundy. And then Red Guen is the German magazine that I spoke about before. So 3 of those magazines are all very keen on publishing and promoting the event in the area. Some of the changes, we're going to increase our capacity. I know someone last year asked me the question of, you know, what's your break even? Well, our break even this year is 70, and we sold out our event in 22 days last year. So we're pretty excited about that. We only had 60 slots, and then all of a sudden we're like, I think we got to find some more spaces, right? And then we were like, where do we put all our coaches? How do we come up with that money? Because we hadn't really figured that out. But the demand was so huge that we ended up with 126 people who participated last year, including coaching staff. We'll increase that number this year to 100 participants, and there'll be about 35 to 40 support staff. So a slight increase in numbers. We're encouraging people to come for the entire event, Of those 96 registered participants, I think 76 of them were here for all 3 days. So we're going to encourage people to stay for all 3 days this year to take as much out of it. I know at least one person in the crowd, I think she only signed up for one, and then she's like, I want to give you more money because I want to stay. I'm like, okay, we'll fit you in, right? So so we made that happen. Another thing we're going to try and do this year is focus more on female coaches. There's a decrease in female kayak coaches in the country and in the province, so we're trying to encourage more, and we're going to encourage a lot more local involvement from female paddlers. They may, the certification may not matter to us, more of them being involved and being encouraged to be involved. And then the other one is to, like I said before, is encouraging people to come early and stay late. I have I wear two hats because I am the chair or the executive director of this event, but I also own a sea kayak company that does professional training and courses. And what we'll end up doing is we'll end up offering those two programs before and after, so people can come, enjoy the Bay of Fundy, come to the event, and then stay and enjoy it. So we had some people stay last year for 12 days straight. So they spent a fair amount of money within this province, specifically aimed at sea kayaking. Pricing structures, very similar to last year. We've increased it just by $25, just based on our banking fees and some of the stuff that we sort of failed to recognize last year would be substantial expenditures for us. We've already made an agreement with the Rod Grand for being our accommodations partner, camping option, as well as just a straight out accommodations. We've this year changed the structure ever so slightly. We're doing one of the meals at the Old Argyller, and then the other meal will be at the Village, the Acadian Museum in Argyll. So they've offered to accommodate us, so we'll use that for one of the meals as well, to sort of spread it out a little bit and draw more attention to the area as a whole. I did try and approach a number of different organizations within Yarmouth, and no one ever got back to me about trying to accommodate us for a meal. So we'll kind of leave that one out there, and maybe someone will come forward in the future and want to step up for that. So our proposed budget, like I said, our break even, our numbers are slightly different. Our marketing budget's increased by another $4,000. But this is a sort of our best case scenario, break even at 72 people. Our biggest line item obviously is marketing, and that's something that we feel is important to spread the word outside of Nova Scotia and Atlantic Canada, to get those people here so that they can enjoy what we have to offer. So our official ask from the municipality is an increase from last year, and our increase is to bring back Virginia, who's the editor for Adventure Kayaker, to get her back to Nova Scotia, to not necessarily promote the event itself, but to draw more attention to the Bay of Fundy and this lower part of the Bay of Fundy than last year. Maybe taking her to Briar Island and some of the stuff up in Digby as well, to bring more attention to that. We've redeveloped, we're in the process of redeveloping our website, and my brother's done sort of almost an in-kind donation. It's $600 or $1,000 for a new website, and then the other one is for us to travel to a fairly target market that we think is in Ottawa, the Ottawa Outdoor Show. Already talked with Destination Southwest Nova and YASA as well, to also partner with them to bring their material with us to spread that word about the area, not just about the symposium, but about Southwest Nova in general, as a destination for us to come and enjoy the outdoors. And that's really it. The big things we did last year, one of the sort of key things that we did last year, we donated to two different causes. One was called the Bill Mason Scholarship Fund, which is a scholarship that's set up for paddlers to go to university or take courses. So that's administered by Paddle Canada. We also supported a film called Kayak to the Ocean. It's about a guy who paddled from Ottawa to Nova Scotia by human power only, so bike and kayak. And so we used money that we raised from a silent auction to donate that money to those two causes. This year, what we've decided to do with our auction money is we're actually going to donate the money back to the Southwest Paddlers, which is a local paddling group that's set up here in Yarmouth, Argyle, and Barrington. So the money that we raise from the auction this year will actually go back to them, so that will support future growth and future participation in the symposium, as well as for them to provide more opportunities for training and boats and equipment if they see fit using that money for that. So if there's any questions, I'll take them now.
Yes, I want to commend you on bringing this sea kayak symposium or sea kayak thing here to, this end of the province. I think you've done a great thing and it's brought a lot to the economy, and I want to commend you for the great work that you've done on this. And I guess probably one question I'd ask you, I know what you're asking from us. Do you go to the other municipalities and make the same presentation?
Drove down the snowstorm last night to get to Municipality Argyle.
Oh, did you?
Presented to them, and then we have a proposal that will go into the town of Yarmouth as well.
Okay.
We didn't feel that Clare was going to benefit, or Barrington, so we kind of focused on this bottom corner, and because we felt that these 3 different units will be the recipients of the most benefit for the event itself. So yes, we have.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you're doing great work. Keep it up.
Thank you very much, Rick.
Hi, Chris.
Hey.
Thanks again for coming. I can't help but wondering what's the viability of Port Maitland area for sea kayaking? Port Maitland is how do we describe that to you? Be up the shore from the Mavelet.
We'll use Mavelet as an area.
You do use
for
Mavelet.
surfing. This year we will.
Oh, you will.
Yeah, it did. The issue with it, and I don't know, forgive me if to make it simple, but depending on where the swell's coming from,
Okay.
we could use this corner of the province or that side of the Bay of Fundy. So last year, Mavelet would have been a better surf beach for us for one day,
Okay.
but Cape Sable Island was a better surf beach for us another day. So
I see.
depending on the swell that's generated, the Bay of Fundy doesn't get a lot of swell, so
Yeah.
we got to take advantage of whatever way with the wind is blowing. So Mavelet is on our radar, and we know that now there's a webcam that's designated to stay there. So instead of, because we did it last year, we drove to Cape Sable at 4 o'clock in the morning,
check it out,
and in the dark, kind of shining flashlights out, going, "Is there any surf?"
Right.
Yeah. Okay. And then we came back. Yeah, we're going to there. So yeah, so we will use that upper part of the bay. Some of the issues is that there's no islands, so there's very little protection up as we get farther up from Yarmouth.
Okay.
So if the wind does blow, there's really nowhere to hide.
Hmm.
So the Tuskets, Cape Horseshoe is good, so you can go around the corner,
Right.
you can bump around a little bit, and then you can come back and there's placid water. So
Okay.
it's less options for us as we get up into the upper part of the Bay of Fundy. But we're open to ideas. Obviously, I've paddled around here a lot, but I don't know every nook and cranny.
No,
yet,
of course. Yeah. And Port Maitland Beach it's a big sort of provincial beach.
Yeah.
That
You
Yeah.
definitely tap into it.
Yeah.
It would all depend on what the sea is doing at that time, and
Okay.
if the surf is good and it's a really shallow beach with a good spilly kind of break, then it's great for us. So we
Okay.
definitely do our best to. Every year we're trying to make.
Do you ever
events.
look at? I mean, you could probably look at the topography of an area and in a different way than I could, for
Yeah,
example.
yeah.
But maybe if you have a look, if there's things like webcams that are supportive to your, like that's something maybe I can help work on.
Yeah.
Because we want to drive that activity locally,
Right.
but we don't always recognize the asset the way you would.
Right. Yeah. Because so if maybe you can email me and we could
Yeah.
see if we, because I know John talked about there's at least one mobile Nova Scotia webcam that can be moved around the province, and we were thinking
Okay.
about one in Argyle, and
Yeah.
then if we can get another one somewhere else, Cape Horseshoe would be
Yeah.
ideal actually. Not worried about the light, but what's happening past the light, because that's
Sure.
where we'll be. Because we're last year right underneath the light, so
Okay.
yeah.
Well, that's something we could throw at the Friends of the Light board.
It'd be great to have a stationary one that stays there. It would
Mhm.
be really good. Like stick it up in the light, and you'll get a very different perspective than any of the other Nova Scotia webcams. Maybe
Right.
an option.
Yeah, good suggestion. Yeah, and feel free when you think of these things to fire them our way, because we can at least get them to the people that would make those decisions.
Yeah, cool. Great.
Awesome.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I get a couple of real quick questions.
Sure.
Of the people that registered last year, how many took the meal part of it too? Like,
Oh gosh, we fed 110 people, so pretty much everybody.
oh,
Maybe
okay.
15
Okay.
people didn't. Yeah.
The reason why I'm asking the question is you mentioned that the old Argyler is going to be doing one of the meals or doing a meal,
Yeah.
and then
The village.
yes, and you were looking. Yarmouth didn't participate in that.
I emailed Rudders and a couple other different places, and no one ever got back to me. With
They didn't want to give you a price on what it would.
They didn't even write me back. Didn't call me back. Didn't have any interaction whatsoever after the official ask.
Okay.
So.
Is it? Did you all sit down at basically at the same time? Is that part of the reasoning, or is it what?
No, we just put, like last year I put out the call as well, because we weren't sure exactly how we wanted to lay it out. So we put our, in the same emails, we sent out different emails to accommodation vendors as well who like to partner with the event. And
Okay.
I guess part of me is, if you get back to us, great. And not to sound rude, but the people who came forward, I'm much happier to go after that horse than chase the horse
Yes.
down the field, I guess, if that makes sense.
Well,
So,
there's Councillor Paquette just mentioned about Port Maitland. There's a nice area in my district, Chabot River,
okay,
and the reason why I'm asking about the meal because there's the Chabot River Aquatic Club, and they do meals, but it's kind of like a very simple meal
right.
for them within themselves, their own group. And I was just wondering, if there was a possibility you could. The Chabot River has a lot of beauty to it, and it also connects in with the Tuscan Islands.
Okay,
See, so I was just when you
Yeah.
mentioned that, I'm going to send you, or I'm going to find out from the president and so on, and try to
Get
make
them-
some
yeah.
connection.
I can't
Maybe there's a
guarantee
little
anything
something
for
they
this
could
year
do.
because we've already made the commitment, but
Yes, yeah.
definitely would be something
Yeah.
that we would entertain in the future.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
On the next note is kind of on the financial. How much did we give last year? I have to apologize.
1,500.
1,500, and you're asking for 25
Yes.
this year. You do realize things are getting a little harder every year for the municipal units, but my understanding, last year when you made your presentation, you could do a break even if you sold out,
Yes.
and you sold out.
Yep. And then we added more coaches. So as our demand increased, then we had to add more
Okay.
support to that.
Okay, that's where I was coming at. If you broke even last
Yeah, I
year,
understand where you're coming from for sure. Yeah.
okay.
So as
and-
we break even, then we will require more staff. So our
Okay.
break even is based, so at 70 people, we need X number of coaches to meet a safety requirement. And
Um,
after that 70, then we need to add more staff.
Yes.
And that more staff will be flights, accommodations, meals,
Yeah,
support that
okay.
goes along with that. So,
Okay.
yeah.
A good answer, but I saw in there in the request about going to I'll call it a trade show or a sports show
Yeah.
in Ontario,
Yeah.
and that would be very beneficial, I assume, to entice more people, because I talked to quite a few people that were registered and were going to go and get registered
Yeah.
last year. So this may entice more people to go from maybe not 72 next year, but maybe 100 in the following year and 15 and.
Hopefully, we're trying, Ottawa was the last one sort of on the list of places that we felt were underutilized. Ontario was one, so Toronto is one,
Yes.
Ottawa is one, and we've invested $1,500 this year. We've hired someone in Quebec as well. So we think that those three provinces, they're 95% of the people, 75% of the people live in Canada live in those three provinces. So we want to be able to throw it out there to give them the option and make sure that
Okay.
they understand that the event's going
Okay.
on. So
Okay.
is it something, can we, are we going to get enough people from there? We're not sure.
Okay.
Right? So we recognize that as an area. So
And my last point would be, now that we have the ferry going to be returning in 2014, and Quest is probably open to maybe some suggestions, and you're gonna be making a presentation to the town. I think Pam Mood has some connection there. Maybe you could get some type of advertisement down there, and Quest might give a special package.
Yeah, so
It's a
yeah,
question.
Yeah, Rick and I had spoken about that already, and
Okay.
the issue with the new ferry service is there's no person that can be contacted right now because
Right,
they don't have anybody on the ground.
Right.
They have a website, that's it. So,
Yes, yeah.
so at some point, what we're gonna try and do, and Rick had said, made a really good point about creating a package for individuals who are coming for the symposium, so that they can help advertise the event on itself. And then if you're coming, then it's this price, and that
Yeah.
will entice, hopefully,
Well-
on the shoulder season as well, right? So,
Well, maybe like a walk-on,
yeah,
walk-off type of
possibly, right?
package.
So
You
we can
picked
get
up,
people
and
off,
there's
yeah.
kayaks that could be rented or
Yeah,
whatever.
we have rental boats
Yeah,
already
you
arranged,
see,
so, yeah,
so
no, it's definitely
that's-
worth
okay.
pursuing for sure.
Good.
Yeah,
Thank you,
the
Mr. Chair.
ferry's definitely, it's on our radar, obviously, making
Okay.
sure that we tap into that, and I think the New England market is there. It's just a matter of getting them to spend their money.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for your presentation. It was very nice. I'm glad to see that you're promoting the Tuscan Islands. There would be a lot of opposition from the fishermen. They don't want anybody else to go there, as far as I'm concerned. But anyways, I like to see that. Another thing, I used to know a guy from Massachusetts that used to be in kayaking, a Surrett guy. Have you ever, did that name?
I know there used to be a big group of people that used to come up from New England that did a lot of paddling in the Tuscan Islands.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was.
I
a
know
Kevin-
people who were in that group. I don't know that name specifically, but I do know people that were part of that group.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But anyways, I really think that you going around the Tuscan Islands there, that's gonna.
I've had a few close calls in the Tuscans with folks
I,
that don't like us.
I love the Tuscan Islands, and I wish more people would know about it. Like I said, there's some opposition from the fishermen, but
Oh yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
They can't run us all over.
no. Okay. Thank you.
Sure, there are fishermen. I'm Ginny, and I chair the Southwest Passage Group. And so I live right down there with fishermen. And I think they were quite fascinated in the local village of Argyle and Tuscan areas, Surrett's Island, and they were quite fascinated in West Bundaco. They were quite fascinated with the number of kayaks on the water. A lot of fishermen said, "Whoa, wow, we never seen so many boats in one place of that nature." So I think they were quite fascinated with it. And just to let you all know, that Southwest Paddlers has paddlers from Clare right on through to Shelburne. And so we support any paddlers that are in the area, both kayak and canoe. We're not simply, we're fairly broad. And we gave some subsidies to people locally so they can participate in the symposium. And we'll continue doing that.
Maybe I'm just listening to a handful.
Maybe.
I've been on the receiving end of definitely people not being happy with me being there.
Yeah.
And we've had people barrel down on us and not change their course.
I'm talking more in the older generation.
More, yeah, I can, yeah, I've been in the receiving end of that. I appreciate that. So yeah, hopefully we can change that.
What's that?
I'm sorry. I just want, Ginny, I'm glad you spoke up, because when we make, that's a pretty substantial investment from us to a specialized event, right? That's getting the higher end of that target market, driving a ripple effect that's more outside of our municipality than in it. So, you know, one of the things that would be a hook for me would be obviously trying to drive events locally. Mavalette's close. And then the other thing is, are we building capacity in our own paddling community? So I like that you guys are doing some granting to make sure that the event is accessible to some of our local paddlers, so that that capacity building, that knowledge is going to be transferable ultimately to the next generation of paddlers locally. That's the kind of thing that I'm thinking about. That's kind of my hot button to invest in an event like this. So keep that in mind when you're structuring, to make sure that this specialized knowledge that you're bringing is staying here, or some portion of it.
Well, we've already sort of planned June, July to run a bunch of skills courses, and it would be through the local community, because
Okay.
what we saw last year is we had a fair amount of involvement from the local community, but not as much formal training as needed for some of the excursions. Some of the
Okay.
days were well above and beyond some people's capacity, and it wasn't necessarily just locals, it's everybody in general. It's, when the
Right.
sea is angry, this, you've all seen it. It's,
Yeah. It's
Monday
hardcore.
it was real, we ended up breaking a boat, and yeah, so shit happens, I guess. But it's we've already recognized that as an area to invest in, and that's
Okay.
and as an entrepreneur, I'm more
Yeah.
than willing to create those opportunities.
Yeah.
Pool sessions at St. Anne, and so it's on our radar
Okay.
for sure. We're
Okay.
going to invest in this, and I know that there's people looking at doing tours as well in the area, or reintroducing kayak touring in South Coast Nova, or
Excellent.
a couple more. So we'll try and help them train more staff so they have more people to draw from as well,
Yeah.
and not
Very
just
good.
people who are retired, but younger people as
Right
well.
on.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for coming in. Thank you for the presentation. Not only are you a kayaker, you're a pretty good marketing hit on you too.
I said I should have ran for politics last year.
So on behalf of the municipality, thank you for the great job you did last year, and I'm sure council will be looking at your request this year. Did you have any questions, Ken, before we left? Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Next presentation is at 10:50, and in the absence of them being there, I'd like to carry on doing business till they come. So having said that, we'll move down to business arising from the minutes. We have a request of letter of support for municipal alcohol project. And that would be Deputy Warden Paquette. Do you want to bring us up to date on 6.1, the request of letter of support for the municipal alcohol project?
Okay, so municipal alcohol project. So this project essentially was sort of started up in the valley. To give a number, the harms associated with alcohol in this province alone are around $419 million a year. So the goal of the municipal alcohol project was to try and help municipalities understand the scope of some of the harms associated with alcohol. And up until this point, those projects could be anything from exploring policies related to alcohol to going into your community and trying to understand some of the harms that your community is experiencing. This particular project, so a pool of money made available by Department of Health and Wellness. A criteria was that you needed municipal engagement to qualify for the funding. Southwest Health applied for some of these funds, and actually was successful in that grant application, and they've been working with Argyle, with us, and with the town. And the project basically is 10 youth from each municipal unit will go out and just sort of explore their community in terms of alcohol and harms, and just provide sort of a youth perspective on how they see alcohol in their lives, and hopefully create sort of an innovative presentation of some form. We're going to leave it up to the youth to really see what they come up with, and all they're asking for us, from us, is a letter of support. It actually doesn't have to come from the entire council, but my understanding is the warden thought it was a good idea to bring it to council, and I agree. So that's the ask today. The money's already been successfully, or the grant's been successfully sort of won, I guess. So I would make a motion that we issue a letter of support in favor of this project.
I'll second that, but.
There's no buts allowed.
Yeah, there are buts allowed. It seems to me that at our last council meeting that I already made that motion, if I'm not mistaken, because we don't have the meeting minutes to prove it, but I did make that motion. If I'm not mistaken.
Okay then.
We didn't move on that motion, though, did we? Did we?
To come back.
Right. Okay. I'm sorry, Steve. We had waited for you, but we did move on it with a motion with the letter of support, I guess. Thank you, John.
But I'm glad that you described a little bit more,
Yeah.
a little bit more information to see exactly, because actually that motion was in principle. I don't know if we have to amend that motion or not, but I don't know if that's going to make any bearing on what you need, because that's the exact same motion I made, except where I said in principle.
Okay. Well, then I think we should leave council.
The seconder has no objection. Okay, thank you. .2 School Board review process. I think we discussed this. What's the wishes of council? John, did you want to speak to that?
We as a council back in July had sent a letter to the minister, or the Department of Education, sorry. I just would like that letter available to the public. I don't know how that would go about, because that letter was only in camera that I seen it, but we discussed that we have no problem of circulating that letter. So if there's any way that it could be added to the either the website or give it to me so I can circulate it to people that want it. Yeah, that would be fine. Just link that letter here, then I can refer people to this council meeting that we are supporting our residents, and we had some concerns about the way that the boundary process was going on. However, there seems to be a lot of movement just recently on this whole issue. But anyway, that's all that I requested, that the letter in July would be added to our agenda. If you can link that, please, that would be great.
Thank you. We'll move on to new business. 7.1, we have the November development report. Has everybody had a chance to look at that? Do we have a seconder for that? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Question being called. All in favor? Aye. Contrary, nay. Thank you, councillors. 7.2 is, for your information, is the letter from Nova Scotia Department of Transportation and Infrastructure on cost share paving of J-class subdivision streets. And 7.23, so that would be for your information. Councillor?
This might be a dumb question, but I was told no question is dumb. Do we own any J-class subdivision streets? Would that be the one here in Hebron? Would that be classed as that? I guess I'd have to wait for the CEO to get back.
I think it's built to that code, but I'll have to wait till King comes back. I think it's probably built a little higher than maybe the J-class. I don't want to comment anymore.
But J-class, if I'm not mistaken, is provincially owned. I'm a little bit confused sometimes when they start calling J-class and municipally owned, and because I know my colleague, Councillor Trevor, who isn't here, he would be on top of this, I'm sure. And if there is a possibility or a chance that we could get shared funding, because there is a problem. Actually, I was down there the other day, and there's a problem with some of the infrastructure we have there, that the cement that for the manholes and stuff, they've been hit and they're starting to chip and crack. And I can't remember the name of the road. Up by the water tower,
The subdivision.
the subdivision up there. Yeah.
But I think, John,
What's it called? Yes, exactly.
no, I think we'd have to fund that 100% or work out an arrangement with the residents to
and
pay
that's
that.
where I go back to my other point. I was a little confused when they start talking about J-class roads owned by TIR, and where was it they wrote in here?
Ken, do you want to just speak very quickly on
I asked the
Council
question.
Cunningham on a J-class road?
I asked the question, do we own any, is there any J-class roads that this would apply to?
This would apply to those provincially owned J-class roads that we provide cost sharing on. There'd be in total 14.68 kilometers in the municipality, of which a number of them are already paved, or we've canvassed these over the years and pretty much picked up on the ones that were willing to go into a cost sharing arrangement to have that done.
All right.
So we haven't had any take up on this in a number of years.
So we have nothing to add to this list?
It's not your prerogative to add to the list.
No, that's not what I meant. We don't have any roads that we've signed the agreement, the 14.6 kilometers, that we have to have any cost sharing with?
We don't have to do any of these.
Oh, we don't have to do
It's
any of
basically, the province still owns these roads. They're looking to pick up 50% cost sharing to do, for us to help them do what they should be doing anyway.
these? Okay, no.
The only thing that I would mention here is that the letter this year is different than in previous years, in that they've indicated that it's also for the repaving of roads. So even if we'd cost shared previously to bring it to a certain standard, which they should maintain it at, they're now looking, they've added repaving to this. And it just kind of slid it in there. Kind of stands out to me because I've been around here too long maybe, but.
Well, maybe that's where I'm getting a little bit confused, because I don't ever remember a letter like that. I remember letters coming through like this, but it almost looks like that they're asking the municipality to cost share to pave roads that need it. Anyway, this requires no action, so I guess I'm just...
The whole part about repaving is a sort of an added, it's added to what previously was just for paving.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess if I may, through you to Ken, the TIR is now asking the municipal unit to help repave J-class roads, right? That's the way I took
They've
it.
added repaving, yes, which repaving was never, I compared last year's letter with this one. There was,
So
it's the
our
first
14
reference to repaving.
Those 14 kilometers basically that we help maintain are now, if the municipal unit helps to repave them in any way, shape, or form, you are now stepping closer to owning 14 kilometers of road. And we'll have to maintain, you'll be plowing them. You'll be paying the full cost. They were never, when the J-class road, it was just basically, when that first came out, was for us to help maintain them. I'll say ditching, snow plowing, shouldering, and so on. That's all that was.
The extent of that agreement, and it was a service exchange agreement
Yes?
back in the early 90s, was simply a way of assessing rural municipalities for a portion of the roads, being the local J-class roads. So they established a number. They looked at how many of those J-class roads were in our jurisdiction, and in our case it was 14.68 kilometers. And then they assigned a number to it that we would pay annually, and it increased by CPI, but that fee was for them to maintain and keep those roads up. So I guess the only point I'd make is that if the condition of those roads are as paved roads, they should maintain them at that level. So repaving should not really be an issue
It
here.
shouldn't be in this
It's been
whatsoever.
added. It's been added this year.
Yeah.
Because they're coming up, I suppose, on so many years down the road when some of these roads were initially paved under a cost-sharing agreement such as this, and now it's time to maybe repave them. So they've added repaving.
Well,
When in reality, we're paying a fee for them to maintain these roads. And if we already brought them to a certain standard, they should maintain them to that standard, in my mind.
well, I'm just saying, it's a step closer to the municipality. Will end up by owning those roads, and you'll have to look after them 100%. They'll delete them out of their system. I can see that coming. If in this period of time they've gone from just a set fee to now having to do 50% cost sharing, and in 5 or 6 years it's going to be 100% the municipally owned. I would strongly suggest a letter be written either to the local department or to the Nova Scotia TIR and ask for an explanation on how come this is now happening. Why they're adding the 50% cost sharing for repaving in there. That was never in the original agreement. I remember being there because it was quite a shock to the council at the time that all of a sudden we had to start paying for the help maintain the J-Class
I don't
roads.
think it's that we have to, it's just they're offering it out there, and I guess it can rise to the top of the list if we're willing to kick funds in. I don't know that there's anything that says we have to. We don't have to do any of this. But,
No.
but then will they let the roads go to pieces? I don't know.
Yeah, yes, they will. Their budget is tight, so they, hey, what other way? But I don't agree with it in any way, shape, or form. But, okay, thank you very much.
Where does RIM funding fall under this, or is that something totally different?
RIM funding's totally separate.
Totally separate.
That's an additional budget that each local jurisdiction gets a certain amount of RIM funding. It's for rural improvement and mitigation work. So I mean, they may do a little bit of shouldering or ditching, but this is separate, and they're applying this to the J-Class roads that we actually pay the maintenance fee on.
Thank you, gentlemen. We now have a waterfront development, Sarah Corning proposal. Jim? Sure. Whoever wants to come up with you. We can get you another chair if you want to, if the four, okay. They got it. You should use the mic because these are televised and it won't pick it up. The only thing, the mic is fairly flexible. I don't know if can pass around all for you, so if on the ends wants to speak, they'll have to change seats with you, Jim, I guess, so. Just press your button there. No. Red one. You're. Ken, look at that mic for him, please. Just.
Thanks, Ken. I sent an email to Liz. Do the counselors have that? Okay. Well, this, we have a committee set up. Council asked Town Council asked our group to design and install a panel to Sarah Corning on, and install it on the waterfront. And so we got together a committee. Councillor Churchill as board member, as a longtime resident of Chicago, and I believe related to Sarah. Eric has been involved in all of our panel designs. Susie Sweeney, and we have Dave Throp here. He's with the church in Chicago. Marianne Mahaffey, she's a Corning descendant who was related probably the closest to Sarah. She couldn't make it today. So our committee went ahead with the design, and during the course of it, I think it was Susie who suggested really there should be one in Chicago. That's where she was born and raised and retired to. We looked at properties and we spoke with David, and the church has indicated the little bit of land there on the corner of Peterson Road and Dayton Road is surplus to their needs. There used to be a hall there when I was a young fellow. So they have met and indicated to us that as long as there's no cost to the church for the transfer of the land, they will donate it. We looked at and we put together a rough cost estimate of what it would cost if your municipality would be willing to take on the land and develop the park. And we would have a second copy of the panel installed there with a slight change to it indicating this is, she lived across the street, she's buried up on the hill. If you want to know more about Sarah, certainly Susie and Eric can speak to that far better than I.
Anyone not familiar with Sarah? Most of us. Do you have any questions on her, Gerard, basically? Okay. So I'm going to, we'll open the floor for questions in, Jim? Okay. Anybody have any questions? That's still reading the email, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I can.
Okay.
I will have Eric give you a brief rundown on Sarah. Okay.
All right, and then I'll let the deputy speak.
Thank you. Sarah Corning was born in Chicago in 1872, and she became a nurse. She got her nurse's certificate in New Hampshire in 1899 and worked in the United States. In 1917, following the Halifax explosion, she dashed up to Halifax and served in that area looking after injured people there. And then she returned to New York where she was working and joined the American Red Cross, and they dispatched her to the Near East, what's it called? The Near East Relief, whose main objective was to look after all the orphans left in Turkey after the First World War. So she went there and came up and found that there was quite a bit of turmoil there because the Turks were at that point very nationalistic and they wanted to get their land back and get rid of all the Greeks and the Armenians who were there. So there were a lot of orphans, a lot of fighting. And she was responsible, mainly responsible for saving about 5,000 orphans, many of whom were Armenian and Greek. She got them out of the city, and on the plaque you can see on the right-hand end what Smyrna looked like with all those fires. And she got 5,000 orphans out of there. They were taken to Greece, and where an orphanage was set up, and they were looked after. The Armenians regard Sarah Corning pretty well as almost as a saint. Well, after her retirement, she moved back to Chicago, moved back to her family home, which was very handy to this plot of land that we're talking about. And she lived there until she passed away in 1969. And on her grave are written the words, "She lived to serve." And so we feel that Sarah is an outstanding Yarmouthian. She was, by the way, one of the people who were given the Order of the Knights of St. Xavier, and she was given that by the Greek government in 1923, presented to her by the King of Greece at the time.
Well, I just thank you for bringing this to our attention. I personally, I'd heard the name, but I didn't know anything about her. I'm just on the web here at the same time, and what an extraordinary person, and model, you know, for even for young people to look up to as a person that's distinguished themselves to such a degree. Would you mind just giving me the intention of this piece and where it's going to be displayed? Is it on you mentioned on the waterfront?
So on the Dayton Road, is that Session Hill?
Yeah.
So there's a piece of land there. It's measures about 80 feet by 90 feet. The church in Chicago have indicated a willingness to donate it. We feel it'd be a good place to display a copy of that panel. Develop a mini park there with a bench and a sign. We propose calling it the Sarah Corning Park, and that the municipality will pay for that and maintain the property in future.
Okay. Have you, you know, I'm just thinking of other groups that you might engage with as well, like the Memorial Club, for example, is a youth-driven organization that might rally around something like this and maybe grab hold of it as well.
We hadn't thought of that, but we can look at that. I think the decision today, I believe, is the municipality receptive to taking on ownership of the land?
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. I just will add that I think it was in October maybe, I was to the library when the, at that time, Development Officer Alex brought forward the letter from the Ambassador Armenia, and we had the little, I don't know if we call it a ceremony, but at the library, and it's quite a story. It could make a movie, it really could. And so we won't be making a motion on that today, Jim. It'll go back to council and let us look at that and all the details, and council will make a decision. Jim, John, sorry, go ahead.
That's quite all right. I was just going to ask if you would send the details to the staff of the municipality, because before we could make a decision, we would need a little bit more information on exactly where the land is, because I'm still a little bit unsure. Do you have it, Liz? Okay. Well, I'll say this much, and I don't really want to make a decision today. I'm certainly receptive, because this is a part of our history that I think needs to be told, and it needs to be taught. And Steve Paquette brought up a good idea that possibly we could have some youth engaged in this project as well, and that maybe be something that for our council to do. But I certainly thank you for the presentation. Actually, the church that you're talking about that owns the land, is that the church on the Peterson Road? Okay. I was just trying to get my bearings, because my grandparents were the Petersons, and they just grew up, had the house just straight across the road from the church. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so I'd like to just say that, you know, I've been sitting on this committee with Jim and the rest of the group, and I think it's a really worthy project. And I guess I did not know that I was distantly related to this lady, but it goes way, way back. I don't know how many generations, but Susie could tell me, I guess, exactly. But anyhow, yes, she's done I would say, a great honor to our country, and you know, it's certainly worthy of doing something. And I don't know if anybody knows where the old Chicago Community Hall was, because that's how I remember it, and that's the exact location of the piece of land that they're talking about. So So that's where it is, and like they were saying, it's right close to where she grew up. I know the house where she grew up and everything, which is practically right across the road, so. So anyhow, I didn't know if I should say anything, whether it's a conflict of interest because her being a relative, but anyhow, I'd just like to add those few comments that, you know, like I really think this is a really good project.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know who to direct it. Is the building still there? Is the hall still there? The hall is gone. Net terrible opinion on that. But that would encompass that whole piece of property where this 93 feet by 77 feet, that is the whole property of the hall? Okay, so where the hall was, I remember going there as a kid, that's nice and solid. What's out back? It's all solid ground?
Yes, it's solid ground, and Alfie Terrio, who lives next door, has been mowing it for years.
Okay. Okay.
So it's, you know, I don't see a lot of work needed to.
Okay. Then my next question, I guess, would be, if I may, Mr. Chair, is, okay, we're going to put tentatively, the thought is to put an information panel. Was there any other intentions? Could you call it like a park or?
Well, we're looking at a two-sided sign, proposing something, and you know, unless we will work with municipal staff on that. You may have noticed a sign that went up on the Sealed Landers Park.
Yes.
And as well on the Coronation Park, the old Milton Ball Field.
Yes.
They were both done by Brian Porter.
Okay.
So we're looking at something similar to that, two-sided, so it can be seen from both directions.
Okay.
A tree or two, a bush or two, and a bench.
Okay. And then if I can, I guess that would be my next lead-off question. Who would maintain this?
The municipality.
Okay. I guess that's where I wanted to lead to. Okay. Thank you.
No further discussion. I commend all. Did you want to say something, Eric? You had your. Yeah. Okay. Sure. I'm sorry.
I just want to put I retired from the museum a number of years ago, but the medal and the cape that you see on the plaque or the panel, they both belong to the museum, and we have a special display at the museum dedicated to Sarah Corning. And you may want to know about the gentleman in the far corner. That's Seymour Kroll, who is a midshipman, Canadian midshipman serving in the Royal Navy at the time, and he was actually at Smyrna at exactly the same time, also from Yarmouth, and hence his picture's in there too.
Thank you. I commend all of you for volunteering your time on this project, and it's a very interesting story, and the more you learn about it, it's intriguing. So thank you for coming in today. We won't be meeting this month, but in January we'll look at that as a council and get back to you. Is that fine?
That's fine, Mr. Warden, and I appreciate your giving us the time to speak to you.
Well, we appreciate you coming in, and as I said, we commend you because she's our own homegrown hero, really. If you want to know the truth, she is. So thank you very much. You have your reports there. If you have any questions of any of the committee members that sat on those committees? Councillor?
I have no questions. I was just going to report Yarmouth and Acadian Shores meeting that was regularly scheduled for next Monday is being canceled. And also the Planning Advisory Committee meeting that's just scheduled for next Tuesday is still on, as far as I know. That's the reason why there's no reports up there for those two committees.
Thank you, Counselor. So, we'll move down to number 9. In camera, we have no recommendations. I will add out in public that we do have a request to meet with the Agricultural Society and the Town of Yarmouth and the Mariners Board. And as a council, we are fully in support of that, and we'll be moving ahead with the meeting as soon as we can set that up. So I don't think we have any motions to call it in camera, so a motion for adjournment is in order. Seconded. Thank you, gentlemen.